Okay, Chair Schmid, you may begin.
Okay, great. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Welcome to the August 23rd, 2021 City of Burlingame Planning Commission meeting. For all in attendance today, please note that this Planning Commission meeting is being held using the Zoom webinar format. So you will see the planning commissioners and the staff are panelists. Please note that there are several ways to submit comments during this meeting. You may raise your hand in the Zoom by clicking on the raise hand button located at the bottom of your screen. Members of the public who are participating in Zoom webinar by phone can dial *9 to raise their hand. You may also send your comments by email to publiccomment@burlingame.org. Staff will be monitoring emails submitted during the meeting, which will be read at the appropriate time. The length of the email comment should be commensurate with the 3-minute customary allowed for verbal comments. If you're an applicant or an applicant's representative, I will ask you to raise your hand when your agenda item is up for discussion so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. We ask that you turn on your video at that time so that we can have more clear communication, simulating the experience we would have if we were meeting in person. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube and will be uploaded to the city's website after the meeting. Moving on to item number 2, let the record note that Commissioner Loftus is absent this evening and the rest of our commissioners are here. So moving on to item number 3, approval of minutes. We have our July 12th Planning Commission meeting minutes. Any discussion or comments?
Move to approve the meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Camerado and seconded by Commissioner Toronis. No discussion, so we need to vote on this? Yeah. No.
We're done.
I always forget. Thanks. Okay, moving on. We do not, approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
Actually, Chair Schmid, I'm mistaken. We should take a roll call vote on the minutes. So
Sorry.
Motion and a second. And let me just do the roll call vote here real quick. Commissioner Camerado.
Aye.
Commissioner Gall.
Aye.
Commissioner Larios.
Aye.
Commissioner Toronis.
Aye.
Commissioner Say.
Aye.
Chair Schmid.
I'm abstaining as I was not at that meeting.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
So motion passes 5-0-1-1.
Correct.
Okay. Approval of the agenda. Are there any changes this evening?
There are no changes from staff.
Okay. Recusals.
Yes, Chair Schmid, I will be recusing from items 9A and 9B.
Just 9A?
And 9B.
Oh, 9B. Got it. And I will be recusing from 9A as well, as I live within 500 feet. Okay. So, approval of the agenda. Okay, moving on to public comments, non-agenda items. Members of the public may speak about any item not on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to suggest an item for future Planning Commission agenda may do so during the public comment period. The Ralph Brown Act, the state local agency open meeting law, prohibits the Planning Commission from acting on any matter that is not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. A timer will sound at the end of the time. I may adjust the time limit in light of the number of anticipated speakers. Please speak clearly into the microphone. Do any members of the public who wish to speak on an item that is not on our agenda? And I am not seeing any hands. Do we have any emails or anything else that has come in for this item?
We do not.
Okay. Okay, moving on to item 6, which we don't have any. Now moving on to item 7A, 907 Paloma on the consent calendar. Okay. Items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine. They are acted on simultaneously unless separate discussion or action is requested by the applicant, a member of the public, or a commissioner prior to the time the commission votes on the motion to adopt. Would any member of the public or the applicant like to pull this item for discussion? Or would any member of the planning commission like to pull this item for discussion? Not seeing any hands in the public. Okay. Let's see. Then can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar, item 7A 907 Paloma Avenue.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Toronis, seconded by Commissioner Larios. Any discussion on the motion? Great. Moving forward with a vote.
Commissioner Camarado,
Aye.
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Larios,
Aye.
Commissioner Toronis,
Aye.
Commissioner Say, Chair Schmidt.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0-0-1. And an action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's actions. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $1,075, which includes noticing costs. Congratulations. Okay. Moving on to item 8A, regular action items. 1515 Columbus Avenue. If you're the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Okay, I had a discussion with the owner several weeks back before their study item. And that's it. Okay. Let the record know that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
This is an application for design review for a first and second story addition to an existing single-family dwelling at 1515 Columbus Avenue, zoned R1. The subject property is an interior lot and contains an existing two-story single-family dwelling and detached garage, which totals 2,639 square feet of floor area. The applicant is proposing additions to both floors of the existing two-story house. The project proposes a total floor area of 3,391 square feet, where 3,425 square feet is the maximum allowed. There are two protected size trees that currently exist on the property, including a 21-inch diameter Chinese elm tree and a 28-inch diameter black willow tree. These trees are proposed to be removed, and a protected tree removal permit has been issued by the Parks Division. The only request before the Planning Commission this evening is design review for the project. At the Planning Commission Design Review Study meeting on July 12th, the Commission noted that they were in support of the design, but encouraged the property owner to work with the neighbor to address her concerns regarding the windows and privacy. The applicant submitted revised plans, date stamped August 11th, to address the neighbors' concerns. I believe there's an email exchange also as an attachment to the staff report. And the applicant is here and he can summarize that further. The suggested findings for design review are found on page 3 of your staff report. And lastly, I wanted to note that we did receive a document that was prepared after the staff report was delivered to you all. It came in today. It's from Rosemary and John Troco. So you should have that available for review. If you have any questions for staff, I can take those now. Otherwise, the applicant is here.
Great. Do we have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, seeing none. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else that you would like to add about your project?
Good evening. My name is Adam Biddle. I'm the architect of the project. Nice to be here with you again. One request, Ruben, can you turn to sheet A10, the side elevation that is kind of the main focus of the discussion here. So after the last hearing, we appreciate the positive comments on the design. We did take to heart the comments that came at the hearing from the adjacent neighbor regarding their concerns for privacy. We looked back at our design as well as, just evaluating the site, the views. I wouldn't say in all cases we necessarily always agree with the comments that come forward, but I believe we, in good faith, look to mitigate, the concerns as much as possible. So just a quick outline. I know you have it in front of you. We did look to reduce the larger bedroom egress windows that were facing the side elevation. We reduced that by half and pulled the sill higher. It was a double casement. Now it's a single casement facing the side that wraps around that corner of the hip roof form. We also added another single awning window just to provide daylight to that space. We reorganized the interior space to put the bed wall facing away from the side neighbor, along with some couple other little interior moves just to make that work. So as far as taking into account the neighbor's concerns, we look to also, mutually, privacy is wanted from my clients, and this being a kid bedroom. However, often when we're coordinating privacy on a second story, it seems to be more related to an adjacent second story home and trying not to align windows. I don't know that there's any intent to be right up in front of a window, staring down across the driveway over a garage into, a yard that is anywhere 40 to 50 feet away from that window. Now, that being said, I think taking into account the comments, making some changes that are mutually, beneficial, we were happy to do so. I do think the current condition affords a nice driveway buffer, existing garage, and being a single story next to it. One thing I might point out, and I actually have a project later on this agenda, one of the things we do when we're designing second stories, especially in Burlingame or Palo Alto, denser suburban areas, is also trying to plan ahead if there ends up being a second story adjacent this house in the future. Not that there ever will be, but it is something we always do. So we do try to isolate larger bedroom windows to the front or rear of the house as much as possible. So with that being said, I'm happy to discuss this topic further as you need or answer any questions you may have.
Great. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant? I have one question. For the two smaller windows, what is the sill height on those above finished floor?
Yes, so the bottom of the sill, as shown, is about 4'8" to rough opening. So add the sash, but we have to go off the open window. So 4'8" on a conservative basis. So they're pretty high off the ground.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. So then Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this item at this time? Oh, there we go. Okay, we have Rosemary and John Trochko with your hand raised. You may unmute yourselves and speak. Are you got, if you still wish to speak, I think I've seen your hand go down maybe. Okay, so if nobody else wishes to speak, I'm going to go ahead and, oh,
They're there, they're just muted.
you need to unmute your computer.
How
There
about
you
now?
go. Yes, you're good.
I have to put a quarter in all these old-fashioned machines here. Well, thanks for letting us talk. Before we start, I'd like to add a couple of points. Our house is single story, as was mentioned, and the house that they're working on has been a second story occupied house for both.
Did we lose them?
I believe they're on mute again. If you can unmute yourselves, that'd be great.
Well, we didn't, yeah.
There we go.
There you go. You're back.
Yeah, well,
back.
we didn't touch anything, but it just went haywire there. Okay, so it has been a second story occupied house for over 40 years, and the windows never faced on this side before. So there is a driveway between our house, and then there's a setback, and then there'll be 2 feet up as it goes up for the roof line. So it's really close to our house, and they do look straight down. If you have 2 sheets of paper in front of you that we sent to you, hopefully you can see our points of view. The first page in figure 1, we took a real close look at what they gave us. And other than raising the 2 windows on the corner by 6 inches to 39 inches, which is not quite, it's 3 feet, 3 inches, still pretty low. Plus they give you a spectacular corner wide view of our whole backyard. Our yard is open partially because there's our house and our garage are separated, and there's a straight shot through. So we added another window, as you can see. And if you look at the color breakdown, they do show the approximate viewpoints you can get from those windows right at our house. So there's windows 1, 2, 3, 4 numbered for them. Ours are A, B, C, D, and E. So as you can see, that would be relatively straight into our house. So I didn't see a lot of changes there. We took another look at the overall approach. And I know last time there was a mention that we could even put some covering over the windows, make them glazed or something. But I think we want to do something different. We'd like to compromise with the architect and the owners and offer some significant changes here. I'd like to suggest that the 3 windows on our driveway side, one in the den, or the actually study, and the other one in the bedroom, which has 2 windows. We make 2 windows there, one in the den or study, and the other one in the bedroom. And both of those would be clear story windows, which would be higher up along the roof line here, and it would be approximately 2 feet down. I would suggest that they stop at 72 inches, at 6 feet. That's not unusual for these types of windows, and they do add a lot more light because they're long and wide. And the light will penetrate the room better. So it's really great for studying and also for students' rooms. Those should be considered instead of the windows that they have suggested now. They would be wider. And if you took the square foot of what they could do with that, let's say the study room would be, say, 6 feet wide by 2. It's 12 square feet. And the
Mr. Trochko? So
Yeah.
we're at the end of our 3 minutes of time.
Well, the other point of view is I'd like to take the window on the corner, the backyard, and move it away from the corner a little bit, raise it up so it over it clears their roof line. And that would make it difficult to see our yard at a higher angle. And if they would also plant some kind of a shrub or bush that would actually grow up and partially block that view, or at least shadow it periodically, would help us a lot. We
Great,
would,
thank you, sir. We need to wrap this up.
yeah, but we were also cut off by some form of.
And the clock has been at 0 for quite a while now.
Okay, so we'll, okay.
This
willing to-
is definitely something that you can work with your neighbors and with the architect offline. We're aware of your concerns and appreciate the information that you've brought forward and the information that you sent to us earlier. And we're aware of that information for you and appreciate your comment.
We would also like the architect to contact us then, or maybe
Or come
visit
by.
us, or do something rather than just give us a plan and go, here you
Never
go.
came by or talked to us, sit in our yard, talk to us for a minute, look at our yard, talk to us. Walk
It
along the
would have
driveway.
been a courtesy.
Would have been fun.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, do we have any other members of the public who wish to speak on this item at this time? Seeing no hands, do we have any further email?
There are no other emails, no.
Okay. Great, then I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, do we have comments? Oops. Sorry, I gotta switch. Okay. Well, Commissioner Tronis.
Yeah, well, I actually, I appreciate the revisions that the architect has made. I think, reprogramming that room, flipping things around, reworking the entry to that room. The bed wall to the space is pretty obvious now. The windows that, as I see them, they're not picture windows. I don't see somebody, necessarily sitting and, sort of staring out those windows. They're bedroom windows, and in considering these issues that we face with neighbors, we can compel, we can request, we can cajole, etc. But in looking at the ordinances, we don't have anything that either restricts or disallows two-story houses or restricts or disallows second floor additions. And further, we don't have any specific ordinance that says windows cannot overlook yards. It's up to neighbors to cooperate, coordinate, and reach points of harmony in terms of window coverings, in terms of behavior, in terms of how we work in neighborly fashion when houses are, as close as they potentially can be, some as close as 4 feet from each other's fence or from a property line fence. In this case, we have a driveway. So, I appreciate the revisions that have been made by the architect. The house is nicely designed. The massing is appropriate. The only thing that we are being asked to consider is design review. So I think the project is approvable at this point.
Anybody else? Commissioner Gall.
Yeah, I would have to agree. We can't redesign the house so that, in a lot of designs, we look at these walls and we say, wow, the windows are too small and that wall is too sheer, it's too blank. And I think the neighbors would not appreciate looking at something like that as well. As I've said in the past, the sightlines work both ways. So the neighbor to the left could also undertake some planting on their yard as well to mitigate some of this issue. Not only to mention the fact or the observation, I guess, that I have from the site plan, it appears that the applicant's fence is maybe six inches on their side of the property line. So the neighbor to the left actually has a little bit more room. So, I'm with Commissioner Toronis. I find the project approvable. I appreciate the concessions that the neighbors already made. And I don't think that the changing the windows to smaller windows is going to help anything, besides the fact that they do have egress issues as well. with Sill Heights and that type of thing. So I don't think that they should be handcuffed by just the neighbor's desire to have smaller windows there. So I find the project approvable as well.
Commissioner Camerado?
I agree with my fellow commissioners. I think that the applicant has done a great job in redesigning the home and taken into consideration their neighbor. And I could also find the project approvable.
Commissioner Say?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I agree as well with my fellow commissioners. Wanted to just remind everyone again that the architect did already raise some of the sill heights. I think that 4'8", I believe he was saying, for the kid playroom, as well as the 2 windows facing the left neighbor in that corner bedroom. Make it so that it's not really a comfortable window to stand or sit in front of and gaze at one's neighbor. And it's also important to allow the homeowner to be able to have some cross breeze in rooms and easily operate windows as well. I think clear story windows are not as easy to get to and operate. So I think the architect has made some nice concessions as it is, and I too agree that this project should move forward.
Great, thank you. I actually have those windows on the side of my house at a 5-foot sill height, and I'm over 6 feet tall, and I can't see my neighbor's roof. So I certainly couldn't see into his backyard. So I agree that having the raised windows on the side are actually a great solution to be able to get in light and make the room not feel claustrophobic, but yet not be a privacy concern for the neighbors. So I agree. I feel that the architect has done a good job on that side. With that, do we have any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve 1515 Columbus Avenue with the conditions in the staff report.
Second that motion.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Toronis and a second by Commissioner Say. Any further discussion on the motion? No, let's vote.
Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Larios,
Aye.
Commissioner Toronis,
Aye, sorry.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Chair Schmid.
Aye. Motion carries 6001. Congratulations. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $1,075, which includes noticing costs. Congratulations. Okay, moving on to item 9, design review study items. First on the agenda is 9A, 164 Pepper.
Commissioner Schmid, Chair Schmid, I'd like to note that I will be recusing from this item since I represented the applicant in the purchase of this.
And I'm going to recuse myself and hand it over to Acting Chair Commissioner Larios, and he can continue.
Thank you, Chair Schmidt. Agenda item 9A, 164 Pepper Avenue. If you are the applicant or applicant's representative, sorry, my screen, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? I am not seeing any hands, so let the record note that all commissioners present have visited this project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
Yes, this is an application for design review for a new 2-story single-family dwelling and detached garage at 164 Pepper Avenue, zoned R1. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing structures on the site to build a new 2-story single-family dwelling and detached garage. Proposed new house and garage will have 3,713 square feet of floor area, where 3,714 square feet is the maximum allowed. The only request before you for this project is design review this evening. At this time, I'd be happy to take any questions of staff if you have any.
Thank you very much. Any questions for staff? I am not seeing any hands up. I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project?
Yes, I do. James Chu, Chu Design Associates. This is a private residence project. And as you can see, it complies with all zoning requirements without any special permit. But we did receive an email from our neighbor who live on 1721 Ralston with privacy concerned. And if you look at our site plan on 8-2, there's the second house on the left where there's a detached garage and there's a single story, which is about 35 feet from our new proposed 2 stories. And if you look closely on the second floor window, there are 3 windows, master bathrooms, a laundry room, and a staircase. The staircase is actually buffered by their single car garage. And again, the master bathroom, windows, and the laundry is very far away and also small. So we believe the proposed would not have any, will have minimal impact on their privacy. At this time, I'd like to answer any question you may have, and hopefully you like the project.
Thank you very much, James. Do we have any questions for the applicant? I see Commissioner Say. Go ahead.
Yes, James, thank you. We're at the bottom, or the bottom, I guess, 1/3 of the stairwell window. Does that look directly out on the roof of the garage next door?
Yes.
Did you think about possibly shortening the windows so that both sides, obviously the privacy issue, but also for the homeowners to have maybe a little bit of a better view, more sky and distant view, as opposed to the roof immediately nearby of the garage?
Yeah. Yes, we could definitely look into it, perhaps shrink the window by maybe 2 feet or 3 even. Yes.
Great, like maybe in line with the fascia line nearby of the roof. It just
Correct.
might make it for a better view from the inside as well.
Sure.
And the other question is, can you go to the front elevation?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, there we are. So it took me a little while to understand how the front porch worked, but I think I get it. There's kind of like these cutouts of the windows beyond is what we're looking at. And then it looks like a tall 12-foot opening leading to the front door. Is that correct?
That's correct. And also it comes down.
And it comes down towards, as you head towards the right side of the house, correct?
Correct.
I was just wondering if the scale of that 12-foot opening and approach felt like overwhelming proportionately to the house.
Sure. Meaning?
I'm just wondering if you might want to think about that a little more, or adding a little. I'm just sense that a 12-foot tall, skinny approach to the front door could feel a little bit out of scale for
Sure.
a human scale.
Sure, we will definitely look into it. Perhaps, again, lower a foot or two. I think, yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Say. Commissioner Toronis, please go ahead.
Thank you. Actually, my only question was in regards to those openings on the front elevation, James. I sort of approached it from a different standpoint versus where Commissioner Say was looking at it, just looking at the stone. In other words, I was looking at those openings, and this isn't a deal killer. We're talking, we're tweaking at this point. So, which tells me that the project is generally nice. I'm looking at it from the standpoint of the stone, that 12-foot opening being so tall, and then the other one next to it, even though it's not as tall, they just get so close to that rake line that you have for the roof that's coming down over it, that there's even a lot of stone above the opening to feel comfortable, so it's sort of from a structural standpoint. I know it's not real stuff. If you were looking at it from a mason standpoint, you would want more.
I agree.
Above that opening, maybe if that opening came down to the height of the top of the transom beyond, and maybe if the height of the opening next to it, to the right of it, came down to the height of the window beyond, you still got a lot of light into that porch, but it would just give more stone above the head of
yes.
And then turning the corner on the right elevation, I realize it sweeps down and you're crunched because, you really want to have enough opening there, particularly with, when you got somebody with their kid on their shoulders, like you're showing in your sketch, haha. You don't want the kid to bump their head, but, my concern is you end up with such a small lintel, because you have a zero overhang, really, other than when you get to your precast or whatever your gutter is going to be, there's just you're going to end up with maybe just one piece of stone for that lintel. It might work okay. And so what I wanted to suggest is maybe you could have a couple of stone or timber corbels at the corners of that low opening on the right-hand side, just to kind of bolster the head of that stone opening. So, I don't know if that has to come down or maybe the head of that opening, instead of being stone, James, is a heavy timber. So that it just, you don't see little pieces of stone that kind of work their way into that head. So
I agree.
Anyway, again, we're tweaking at this point because otherwise I think it's a nice project. Those are my only real comments. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I agree with the once we lower the main 12-footer down, we will also lower the opening on the right.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Torres. Do any of my other fellow commissioners have any questions for the applicant at this time? I don't see any other hands. Okay, well, thank you very much, James.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? Were any comments received through email?
So it looks like we have 2 members of the public wishing to speak, and I received a few public comments that I can read into the record after the members of the public speak.
Certainly, let's prioritize those who are here.
So we'll let them in. They can start whenever they're ready.
Hi, my name's Kevin. I live at 1715 Ralston. I just got this notice. I had been traveling and I had never actually seen any of the designs for the proposal. And I was just wondering how I get a copy of those so that way I can have a more informed opinion.
So we can provide you with a copy of the plans. If you want to send an email to planningdept@burlingame.org. Again, that's planningdept, like department, @burlingame.org, and we can follow up with you and provide you with a copy of the plans.
DEPT or DPT? Okay, it's DPT, right? Not DEPT, right?
No, DE, like.
Okay.
Yeah, like department, DEPT.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And I see we have another hand raised.
There is a call-in user. Is that someone else or was that the previous speaker?
I see Mr. Zhang, he's named as himself, so it might be another speaker. Oh, I see now Mr. Zhang has raised his hand again.
Okay, we'll let him back in.
Hi, yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, I was curious how it would affect the view into my yard, given that they're building up on that floor and then they're kind of close to the back of my yard, essentially.
I don't know that we can answer for you this evening. I think it's something that you may want to connect with the designer about, and they can share the plans with you, share the project, and then compare that to your property. Or you can also take a look at the plans when we email them to you, and you can see the positioning of the house in relationship to your property.
Okay, thank you.
Can I have a moment to respond to this neighbor?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to point out, besides the master bathroom windows and laundry and staircase, we have 3 other additional windows facing the left neighbors are small windows. One which is from the master bedroom. The second is bathroom number 2, and the third is bedroom number 2. If you look at sheet 8.3 on upper floor plan. So we did consider, neighbors' privacy on a situation like this. We tried to position our larger window facing front and rear and our driveway side. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, looks like we have one more hand up.
Right, so that is call-in user number 2. They are in the panelists. So if you want to try to unmute yourselves and you can speak.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. Hi, can you identify yourself, please?
I'm a neighbor on Pepper Avenue.
Can you state your name, please? It's just we don't have your.
I prefer to remain anonymous. Our primary concern, as you know, this side of Pepper Avenue is pretty small houses that fit in with each other. It appears, I could be wrong, that the plans for 164 are rather gargantuan. Let's put it that way. They don't seem to fit in with the rest of the houses on that side of the street. And that's our primary concern. It's just, someone mentioned earlier, proportion. And I think that's just, really something to keep in mind. Several neighbors are concerned about this, but, I just want to put that out there.
Thank you very much. And it'd be great if you can identify yourself, but if not.
Okay, well, I have done so by email. I prefer not to.
Then that is perfectly fine. It's just, this is a public forum, and that is the only reason I ask. But if you've already sent an email, I respect that.
I have.
Thank you.
I have. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we do have some additional public comment emails, and I can read those at this time.
Okay, please go ahead.
Let's see, the first is from Ken Noss. I live at 1721 Ralston and 164 Pepper fronts my backyard. The existing house is a single story and a 2-story will tower over my whole backyard, deck, slider to my family room, bedroom windows. My privacy will no longer exist. Can the owner build a single story home? If not, could the building plan be monitored and designed so windows do not look directly down on my deck and family room slider? Can trees be planted to cover the window placement? Thank you for your consideration. And then we have a second public comment from the same person. The first one was for the July 12th meeting. This project was continued. So he did follow up with a second email. Again, this is from Ken Noss. This house is a monster. All I ask is leave my fence alone and have the monster builder plant monster trees to provide my privacy. I cannot make the meeting tonight, so hope you can deliver the message for the right thing to do. And again, that's from Ken Moss. And we have one more. I believe this may be the email from the previous caller who was on the line. I have viewed the plans for this project. I am not in the construction business, and I have minimal experience as to reading house plans, so my perceptions of the plans is admittedly limited. That said, I have some observations. We have lived on Pepper Avenue for over 30 years and remember very well when the new 164 owner constructed a house on another block of Pepper Avenue, an ostentatious house which never fit in with its situation. Among other things, that house is much too big for the size of the property, and it stands out like a sore thumb. The house has barely any front yard, at least in proportion to the house itself. Visually, there is not enough separation from the curb to the house, minimal landscaping, no trees, nothing to soften the hardness of the large, impressive front of the house. It's as if he felt the need to fill up every inch of his lot with no consideration of curb appeal other than in the sense that the house is monolithic, hence unavoidably noticeable, which is apparently what the designer owner wants. I was hoping that since constructing the other house, the owner's aesthetic sensibilities may have changed and that he would appreciate the unpretentious vibe of this block of Pepper. Unfortunately, from viewing of the plans, it appears that I was wrong. I'm also curious as to whether the owner wants to live in the new house or if it is being built to sell. From the information I have gleaned elsewhere, it appears to be a spec house. Obviously, that is the owner's prerogative. However, it may be of interest to his neighbors. While change is, of course, inevitable and generally a positive force, some changes are less positive than others. Unfortunately, Burlingame seems to be transforming from a community that values small town charm to a community that values what will sell. Thank you for your consideration. And those are the only public comment emails we received on this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other hands, and since we've received no other emails, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Fellow commissioners, do we have any comments? Commissioner Taronis, go ahead.
Yeah, well, what we have before us is a request for design review consideration. In looking at the necessary findings, I think that the project is well crafted. I think the massing is handled nicely. I think the architecture is well done and appropriately scaled. It may be vastly different than what neighbors are seeing now and maybe different than what they expect. But in terms of our design review guidelines, in terms of our allowable ordinances for height, floor area, lot coverage, et cetera, it meets all of those current requirements. And the only thing before us that's requested is design review. I think that the floor plates are handled nicely, 9 feet on the first floor, 8 feet on the second floor. We see things that are often, much bigger, taller, and higher than that. I think that the project is well crafted, other than the few tweaks that have been discussed this evening. I think it can move forward. I would ask that the applicant and the designer perhaps revisit their landscape plan, and they have a boxwood hedge that's along the back yard of their property. They could perhaps continue that boxwood as a concession to the neighbors along that side for the Ralston properties that back to this. But again, we don't have any ordinance that prevents 2-story houses and second floor windows. And in this case, those second floor windows aren't looking out to another house. They're looking out to a backyard. They have quite a distance before they even look to the neighboring house that is in the front of those backyards. So I think landscaping can be installed and help mitigate, but I don't see any reason to require changes to the windows along that side. As the designer pointed out, the windows that face that direction on the second floor are from a master bath, a stairwell, and the laundry room. So they're not even bedroom or living spaces that someone might otherwise be viewing out of. They're really to just sort of let light into those spaces. So, I think that the project should move forward to action. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Toronis. Any other commissioners have any comments? Right, I think I have one more hand up. I see Commissioner Gall.
Yeah, just real quickly, I think the designer did a good job. As Commissioner Toronis noted, that the windows that are going to look out into the other yards are not really, living space windows. And he did a good job with setting the trees behind the house where he brings them back to where the adjacent structure is on the neighboring property, and in effect blocking the house and any views that might be there. But to my point with the previous application too is, the neighbor on the Rosedale Avenue side has a lot of yard to work with there and could very easily plant something along the fence line that would in fact block the view of the house if he was really concerned, whereas the applicant has a narrower yard there and is a little bit more limited. So I would like to see this move forward as well. And I'm in agreement with Commissioner Toronis.
Thank you, Commissioner Gall. I will also say that, that our job here is design review. And just as I'll echo what Commissioner Toronis said, what Commissioner Gall said, I think that this project has the necessary findings to move forward, with the exception of some minor tweaks. But both Commissioner Toronis and Commissioner Gall did also hint at some advice that could, that possibly the applicant could look into as far as giving a little bit more privacy, but that really isn't a concern since, all the findings are there for this design review. So I will just leave my comment there. Do we have any motions from my fellow commissioners?
I'll make a motion to bring this back on regular action.
I will go ahead and second that. Have a motion by Commissioner Toronis and seconded by me, Commissioner Larios. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion. May we please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Toronis,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Acting Chair Larios.
Aye.
So the motion passes 4-0-2-1.
Thank you. And this action is not appealable. Okay, for the next item, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Chair Schmidt. Welcome back, Chair Schmidt.
Great.
You are running the show now.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 9B, 225 Stanley Road. If you're the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Commissioner Camarado, you're recusing yourself, correct?
We'll be recusing from this item, yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. This is an application for design review for a new a new one-story single-family dwelling at 225 Stanley Road, zoned R1. The applicant's proposing to demolish the existing single-story house and build a new one-story single-family dwelling. The existing detached garage on the property will be retained as part of this project. The proposed house and detached garage will total 2,697 square feet of floor area, where 3,340 square feet is the maximum allowed. Staff would note that 446 square feet of that total floor area is actually ceiling height that it's over 12 feet in height, which under the code we are required to count twice. The new house would contain 4 bedrooms and therefore requires 2 off-street parking spaces, one covered and one uncovered. And the detached garage meets the code requirements for the one covered space, and the uncovered space will be provided in the driveway. All other zoning requirements have been met, and staff has provided for you in the staff report the design review criteria for reference this evening. That concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great, thank you. Do you have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, seeing none, then I'm going to open up the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you'd like about your project?
Yes, I would. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone, commissioners and chairman. I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity to present this project to you. Again, this is a nice one single story residence farmhouse design. My clients before were looking at trying to do an addition to the original house. And when I did my site visit, it ended up being that there was no foundation whatsoever. It was basically a pier and girder system, which I quite haven't seen in Burlingame in a long time. So due to that reason is the main reason why we ended up, building this new house to accommodate the growing family for Mr. and Mrs. Pugh. And we hope that you like this design, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you, Jesse. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant at this time? Commissioner Say?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Jesse.
Hello.
Let's see, I had one is just a little drafting correction. I think your left and right elevations are mislabeled. They're just swapped.
Okay.
Had me a little confused trying to figure out which side was which. So that's just a little drafting correction.
Okay.
But I was looking at your front porch and just curious, what is the dimension you have that's roofed over at the front entry?
Yeah, that dimension is, I didn't label it. It would be approximately, I believe it's 30 inches.
Is it that much? Okay. I'm kind of wondering, so I didn't look to see if you're up against a front setback or something. Is there an opportunity for you to deepen the front porch, maybe bring those 3 posts out forward closer to the front of the landing?
I would love to, but we're completely
up against
maxed out on lot coverage.
Lot coverage.
Yeah, because the porches are also included in lot coverage, any covered roof area that's more than 24 inches.
I'd also note that the setbacks they are at the block average, so they can't go any further.
Yeah, I just thought of it, that it might have been a setback issue. It just seems a little tight there, or maybe could you take in the front entry a little deeper so you just have a little bit more comfortable approach to the front door, a little bit better weather protection?
We could look at doing that. I just got to be careful for those pocket doors that we have there and entering that area there. So yeah, we could just definitely take a look at that.
All right, thanks. I think that was it for me.
Okay.
Great, Commissioner Gall.
Yeah, hi, Jesse. Just a couple quick things that I noticed on your site plan. First off, at the rear right corner of the house, you have note 14, which is a location for the address number.
Oh, right. Okay.
You got it at the front of the house. I don't think you need it.
Gotcha.
And the other one was on the same sheet. It looks like note 10 up towards the curb, and you have that as the like the bubbler for the drainage. But you might want to check. I don't think that the city's requiring that anymore. I think they're asking for the stormwater to drain back into the site, which just to kind of keep the ground and decrease the stormwater runoff.
So just keep the retention wells, basically, get rid of the catch basins.
Yeah, and I don't know that you need that if unless you have a water issue or you're at in a flood zone or something. But they're in my past experience in the last couple of years, they're just letting us run it off into the garden.
Oh, okay.
So
I'll have to look at that.
Just one thing you could eliminate on the site.
Yeah.
All right, that was it. Overall, I'm happy to see a one-story house.
Sorry about that dog craziness. Commissioner Taranis.
Oh, sorry. I probably should have lowered, but because I had the same comments as Commissioner Say and Commissioner Gall. Jesse, I just, I can't believe, you're actually building a one-story house. You got bedrooms sharing bathrooms,
Yeah,
dogs and cats living together. Massive
Yeah.
story.
yeah,
No,
it's a great house though, I
Yeah,
really
it's a
like it.
great house, very nicely scaled. Yeah, I was just going to encourage, because you're capturing all of that roof drainage and taking it to the street instead, looking into just dumping it into landscape area again, as Commissioner Gall said, to recharge the groundwater. My only other suggestion, I saw the same thing as Commissioner Say said on the front porch. My only other suggestion was possibly to maybe just increase the roof overhang on that rake side. You could keep the columns where they are, but you might be able to extend the roof overhang a little bit more, because I think you get up to 2 feet without it. So anyway, it just could help with a little bit of cover at that front porch. So,
Okay, and
Thank
Commissioner Toronis,
yes, sir.
if you look at the roof plan on A2, I think I used that 24 inches as best as I could.
Did you already max it out?
Yeah, it's pretty much there. So if I have that depth of the porch, which is at 30 inches plus a 24, so it kind of gives you a 5-foot, entry in that area.
That's true. Okay, that was all right. You've already got it covered then. All right, thank you.
Yeah, we maxed out on the lot coverages, only because we kept the garage, because eventually we're going to do an ADU in the back. So it's one of those workarounds.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Unless we have any other questions for the applicant, then I'm going to open up the public hearing. Do any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? Let's see, I don't see any hands. Did we get any email or other correspondence?
There are no public comments on this project.
Okay, so then moving forward, I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, any comments left? Great. Well, then I'll add my comment. I think it's a good looking project. And I think that you've done a lot with making this single story work on this lot. And I applaud you for being able to program all that in there and make a nice looking project. So I'd like to see the project move forward.
Yeah, I would echo those comments and appreciate a one-story house being built instead of what we're normally seeing. So I would make a motion to move the project forward onto the action calendar with the conditions as stated in the application and staff.
Second.
Great. I have a motion by Commissioner Gall and a second by Commissioner Toronis. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, can we have a vote?
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Larios,
Aye.
Commissioner Toronis,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Chair Schmidt.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0-0-1. Congratulations. And this item is non-appealable. So moving on to the next item. Item 9C, 312 Bayswater Avenue. If you're the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Welcome back, Commissioner Camarado. Were there any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications during this regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to just note that we did have a received after that was sent to the Planning Commission this afternoon for item 9C, 312 Bayswater. And this is a rendering that was provided by the applicant. This is an application for design review for a new 2-story single-family dwelling and detached garage at 312 Bayswater, zoned R1. The subject property is an interior lot. It currently contains a single-story house with no parking on site, or no covered parking, I should say. The applicant is proposing to demolish the structure and construct a new two-story single-family dwelling with a detached garage. The proposed house would have a total floor area of 2,836 square feet, or 2,841 square feet is the maximum allowed. The new house would have 4 bedrooms, which requires 2 covered parking space, one of which must be covered and 1 uncovered. The 1 covered space would be provided in the new detached garage. Staff notes that there is a 40-inch diameter protected size oak tree that's located on a shared property line on the right side of the property in the corner. This would be retained as part of the project. And given the separation of the new house and detached garage, there are no tree protection measures required by the Parks Department. The project is code compliant, and therefore this application is just for design review. The design review criteria have been provided for you in the staff report for reference. That concludes this presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, seeing none. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward, state your name and anything else you'd like to add about your project?
Good evening. My name's Adam Biddle. I'm the architect of the project here. Good to be back here with you. So a rundown on this project. My clients, long time, grew up in Burlingame. This property has been in the family for quite some time. I think a long-term tenant has lived there. And so my clients are excited to, move into this neighborhood that they are familiar with and, continue their own and start their own family in this location. So the lot itself is surrounded by 2-story homes. What's a little coincidence, the first time I've ran into this is that the adjacent project at 100 Stanley, which was on your hearing agenda last hearing on the 9th, we had submitted before that hearing, but we were able to review a proposed 2-story home that went in, in tandem of our proposed one. So I kind of touched on it in, an earlier agenda item. When we design around a proposed 2-story, we like to look to the future and the potential of another 2-story home going in, and it actually happened. So not to go into too much in terms of layout and programming, it was touched on in some of the other agenda items. We look to isolate bedrooms and public spaces to the rear and front of the house, especially at the 2nd floor, and isolate secondary uses like bathrooms, closets, laundry, staircases to these side yards. And in this case, we tried to strategically look at privacy, especially at the rear, the 2-story house that overlooks the backyard, and then on the 308 Bayswater side, that existing 2-story. It only has it doesn't have that many windows on the 2nd floor, but again, turning the master or the primary bedroom bed wall to that side window for privacy concerns. In terms of site layout, it was touched on by Catherine that the large existing oak tree, we really wanted to look to retain and work around that. And it was a key driver for this site as we are proposing to flip the driveway to the opposite side, which in tandem also gives us a little bit of padding from the proposed 2nd floor of 100 Stanley, which by the way, our clients, thought looked great. So we look forward to, or they look forward to having them as neighbors. But, working around that tree, locating the detached garage to the rear corner, driveway on that side. This is a slender lot, only 45 feet wide or 46 feet wide. So it is a little substandard in terms of size. As far as design, we kind of look to a more craftsman inspired. My clients actually really fell in love with a past project that came before some of the members here a handful of years ago at 1629 Howard. And so we took some cues off of that project, which has since been completed and pretty much aligns with the intent at that time of that hearing. But played off of that for this project and lot. And, some of those same attributes in terms of privacy and zoning to neighbors, and in this case, also being surrounded by 2-story houses, hopefully work pretty well. And the site being relatively small, we tried to break down the massing as well. So it does not feel hopefully larger, out of scale. I heard those comments earlier, as far as entry, we have a deep porch, recessed elements, breaking up of forms. And then just a note, it was passed along to me this afternoon, the correspondence from the neighbor at 100 Stanley. Coincidentally, we'd also reached out to Catherine in terms of, figuring out what their proposal was so we can coordinate screening. My clients after this hearing, are looking forward to sync up with that neighbor to coordinate along our driveway. It would be a mutual interest to screen when you have a corner lot backing up against an interior lot. Some of their second floor bedrooms will overlook our driveway, but it should be easy to coordinate screening, and they're looking forward to it. One note on their email regarding the shrubs, it does look like they are right on or on our side of the property. It is our intent to landscape and coordinate with them directly, some kind of landscaping that works for both. So same with the coordination of the fence line and garages and all the building fire items that go along with that. So with that being said, happy to answer any questions you have.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant at this time? Okay, I have a handful of questions. So I'm looking at the top plate for the first floor on the front elevation, and I'm seeing 10 feet. Is that correct, Adam?
That is correct.
So does that mean that I'm looking at a 9-foot tall front door?
Yes, we're positioning our head height at 9 feet.
And 9-foot back doors? And a lot of really tall windows at 9-foot head height?
Correct.
Okay. And then on the sides, I really do appreciate the smaller awning windows and the position. I think you've done a great job of that. Can you answer what your sill heights are for those?
Oh, good. Let me grab. Typically, they're noted on those drawings for you. They're probably around that same 4'6", 4'8", but let me confirm for you.
That's fine. I mean, it would be a good thing to add because I think those help then the neighbors know that you're not staring at them.
Yeah, for reference, we're at 4'4" for those sill heights on the awning.
Okay. And that was it for me now. So unless we have any other questions for the applicant, then I will open up the public hearing to the public. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item at this time?
We did receive a public comment I would like to read into record.
That would be great.
It says, hello, I currently live at 100 Stanley Road. This is a corner house next door at 312 Bayswater. We noticed on the plans that it lists the existing dense shrubbery as part of our property, but is actually part of the 312 property. This shrubbery provides a nice divider between our two properties. It gives privacy between the front yard of 312 and our side yard and outdoor space. If the tree is part of the tear down, we would like to see the plans reflect a new shrubbery to replace it. Thank you. Tiffany Marce.
Great. Okay, so unless I don't see any other hands raised, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, any comments? Commissioner Tronis?
Yeah, I had the same question as you did, Mr. Chair, in regards to that first floor plate height, and I was, scaling those doors and the head heights of the windows at 9 feet. I'm a little concerned about that. Just the house looks well proportioned, but it's made to look well proportioned because you then end up with 9-foot doors and 9-foot head heights on windows. I drew myself a 6-foot tall person, and we got doors that are just kind of towering over that person on the front porch. So and then therefore the eave line on that front porch is really high. So the house in and of itself as a package is well proportioned, but my concern is it could end up being just looking like a little bit on steroids. And and 10-foot plate heights can work in some locations, larger lots, et cetera. But as the architect, as Adam pointed out, it's a smaller lot. It's only 45 feet wide. So I would ask that they revisit that and see if they could possibly bring that plate height down slightly and maybe look at the proportions of the height, at least on the porch as well. Maybe bring that eave line to break that line of the roof, just to make it look a little bit more human scale as you're approaching the house. So otherwise, that's my only comment. I think otherwise the massing is handled nicely, or at least the detailing is handled nicely, other than that mass of that first floor. And again, the only thing before us really is the designer view. I'm glad for the fact that they're keeping the oak tree in the back. They're reworking the driveway in order to help with that situation. And if they can coordinate and cooperate with the neighbors on the corner at 100 Stanley, I think that would go a long way to making a happier project. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? So I will echo that. I think that once you put a human being in there, I think that first floor is going to look tall. And I think the 9-foot doors are going to be rough. I have an 8-foot front door and it was difficult to find. So if you're going to do 9-foot everywhere, I think you're going to create more cost and challenge to the project. I think the rendering looks great, and I appreciate the applicant bringing the rendering to us, because that really does help a lot in understanding materials and everything and the intent of what you're trying to accomplish. So thank you. I appreciate that a lot. I appreciate the oak tree as well. And though we don't always like to switch driveway sides, I think that was definitely an excellent compromise to the whole thing. And I think overall it works. It's just really the proportion thing for me. So maybe that's something you can take a look at before coming back the next time. Do we have any other comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion to bring this back on regular action.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Tronis and a second by Commissioner Camarado. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Commissioner Camarado,
Aye.
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Larios,
Aye.
Commissioner Toronis,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Chair Schmid.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0-0-1 and is non-appealable. Congratulations. We look forward to seeing you next time. Moving on to item 9D, 1150 Rosedale Avenue. If you are the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project?
Yeah, hi, I'm Warren, and I'm the designer for this project.
Okay, hang on. We're almost to you.
All right.
Okay. No worries. So hearing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. This is an application for design review and special permit for an attached garage for a new 2-story single-family dwelling at 1150 Rosedale Avenue. The subject property is located on the northwest corner of Rosedale Avenue and Westmore Road. For corner lots, the code defines the front of the property as the narrowest portion. So in this case, Westmore Road is considered the front for zoning purposes. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing one-story single-family dwelling with attached garage and build a new two-story single-family dwelling with an attached garage. The proposed house would have a total floor area of 2,836 square feet, or 2,858 square feet is the maximum allowed. The new single-family dwelling would contain 5 bedrooms. 3 parking spaces are required, 2 of which must be covered and would be provided for in the new attached garage, and the 1 uncovered space would be provided in the driveway. The applicant is requesting a special permit for the attached garage, but all other zoning requirements have been met. Staff has provided for you the design review criteria for reference, as well as the findings that are required for a special permit. That concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions of staff at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward, state your name and anything else that you would like about your project? Now it's your turn.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm Warren Huey. I'm the designer for this project. And I work with the owner on what style that design they like. They like kind of a modern style house. And that's what I kind of try to get for them. We put a deck on the second floor above the garage, as you can see. The plate heights are 10 feet, 9 feet on the first floor, 8 feet on the second. We have a metal roof, a cover entry. Is there anything else you want to see? No? Oh, we try to keep most of the existing landscaping there, but we are planting more maple trees out in the front.
Okay, anything else that you wish to go over?
Okay. Questions for me?
So, commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Say.
Thank you. Yes, I have a few questions. Is the front door proposed at 9 feet tall?
I think it's an 8-foot door.
8-foot door. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, no, I see where the 9-foot line is. So the underside of the roof overhang over the front door is
This could be
like about 10 feet.
This is going to be a soffit. It could be a wood soffit.
Is there wood soffit there, or is it a just the roof structure up above the entrance?
There's a roof. There is the roof structure. Then underneath that is a soffit. There's a cover.
There's, oh yes, there's a ceiling to the underside of your roof overhang, right?
Right.
I mean, I think that's a nice little element there over the front door. I wonder, again, kind of proportionally, if it feels very tall above the entrance. Kind of your idea, what you just mentioned about a soffit, even maybe bringing down that ceiling line under just above the front door might soften that approach to the front door. You can think about that. Oh, I just want to get some clarification on those dimensions. And then I couldn't tell very clearly from the drafting of the plans or the floor plans where the extent of the roof deck is and how big it is.
You go to the second floor. Second floor.
Second floor. It says deck, but I can't see where the roof deck is.
It's cut back. It's not all the way out. I think it's cut back by 7 feet.
Can you provide a square footage dimension kind of overall of the proposed roof deck. We try to limit our roof decks to less than 150 square feet.
It's about 100 square feet.
Is it?
Yes.
So maybe in your next go around, if you can provide better dimensioning and graphic representation of the extent of that roof deck. And then can you explain, you don't have a rendering for us to look at, correct?
No, but I can give you one.
Well, I'm just wondering because everything's printed in black and white, what the thick black lines are representing around your windows. Are they actually the widths of your window sashes? Is it a casing detail? Are they intended to be black?
Yeah, it's going to be a different color. It's going to be an accent color. It's going to be kind of a, the thick black line ones is going to be kind of a 2x2 window trim.
Oh, so it's a trim that you're
Yeah.
proposing there that we're seeing between windows?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Commissioner Tronis?
Yeah, my question is, Warren, is on the site plan. If I'm looking at the Rosedale Avenue side, that would be considered a side, a property side, and therefore the setback isn't as extensive. Am I correct in assuming that the reason you have the house pushed to where it is primarily because of the driveway?
Yes, and that's where almost approximately where the existing house is.
Okay, so the setback from the property line to the face of the garage, I guess that's at 25 feet.
Right.
But I don't think it's required to be 25 feet because this isn't a front, it's not a front of a house, it's a side.
That's the requirement your planner gave me.
Is that true? Catherine, can you help with that? Is 25 feet required even if it's on the side, if you have the two-car garage?
It's a minimum of 20 feet from the property line or from the edge of the sidewalk to the face of the garage.
Okay. So I guess my question, Warren, would be if you could pull the house closer to Rosedale, I mean, it would give you more relief on the interior side of the house, still gives you enough room to park a car in the driveway. Would you want to pull the house closer to Rosedale if you could?
I'll talk to the owner about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it could give some relief to that interior side. So, okay, if you could take a look at that. And then I had the same question on the roof deck. And if I try to compare your elevations where you're showing the glass railing relative to the floor plan, my calculations of that area of that roof deck ends up being about a little over 260 square feet. So that's a big roof deck on a second floor. Anyway, so which is another reason for wanting to pull a house away from that neighbor's side, but that's still a large roof deck that we typically discourage. So if you could take a look at that and delineate what size that roof deck is on your floor plans, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Great. So now we don't have any further questions. I'm going to open up the public hearing or open up to the public. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item at this time? Okay. Ruben?
There were no comments received through the public comment email.
Okay. And it looks like has somebody been let into the meeting, or we have a Quinn Lagos?
That's the owner.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Then if we don't have any other speakers, then I will close the public hearing. And commissioners, do you have any comments? Oh,
I think Quinn has her hand up.
Yep.
Chair Schmidt.
Okay, I'm seeing a hand. I'm seeing a hand now. So if you can unmute yourself, you may speak. There you go.
Thank you. This is Quinn's husband. I'm pretty challenged when it comes to the computers.
No worries.
As far as the comment for pulling the house forward, I'd be happy to do that. I would love that actually. And the roof deck itself, I don't think my neighbor has any problem with it. I don't know if there's a zoning problem with it or anything else like that, but just trying to maximize what I had in the small footprint that I've got here in this house.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Then I'm going to close the public hearing and we're going to move back to the commissioners. Do we have any comments? Commissioner Camerado.
Yeah, so I had some of the same comments and questions as my fellow commissioners to the applicant. I would love to see if the applicant can provide us a rendering to actually see what those windows would look like that are kind of framed in that darker area. Also, I'd love to get a better idea of that deck. The deck to me seems a little large and would like to see that scaled back, but I'd like to see a little bit more detail on that.
Okay. I'll go. Oh, Commissioner Tronis, you can go ahead of me.
Okay, yeah, I think if the designer and the applicant could just revisit with staff and retune that setback off of Rosedale, pull the house that direction, it would give them some side yard. I think that would also give them the opportunity if they could consider some landscaping along that side, because regardless of what the current owners or neighboring owner might think of the roof deck now, ownerships can change, and then suddenly we have issues with, second story decks that we often are somewhat sensitive to. So if they could consider some landscaping along that side. Now, in regards to the second story roof deck, I'm a little bit more sympathetic than in our typical situation, because this is a corner lot. They have the front setback along Westmore. They're going to have some kind of setback if for no other reason they need to have a car parked in the driveway. So they're sort of, the house is sort of pushed in off the corner. So they have limited yard space. So I would be a little bit more sympathetic to a roof deck in this situation, but I do still think that 260 square feet, as I'm measuring it, is rather large. So if they could reconsider that. Generally, in regards to the entitlements that they're seeking, design review and the special permit for attached garage, I think is appropriate. I had a hard time finding actually any detached garages in this neighborhood. It's almost the exclusive pattern in this neighborhood. So I think that there's precedence for that special permit for the attached garage. So I don't have an issue with that. In regards to the design itself, I think it's nicely done. I think that, the way that they've applied the materials, they've broken up the sort of contemporary design with the horizontal siding. They've used that horizontal siding to accent the bay features that are on each of the facades. So I think that works nicely. I agree with Commissioner Say that they should consider bringing down the scale of that front entry, because it's just, it's a little monumental. So if they could revisit that, I think that would be helpful. But otherwise, I think it's a nicely done project, and I think it can fit into this neighborhood. So thank you.
Commissioner Say.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with most of what Commissioner Taronis just stated as well, so I won't repeat those items. I do want to agree that the roof deck, I can see an argument for a larger than typically approved roof deck in this particular scenario. I did want to comment, however, that maybe there's some consideration for thinking about the material of that railing. I know it's being proposed as glass, in that location overlooking El Camino, I know that there are a grove of trees kind of nearby, but that corner coming right onto Rosedale, one might feel a bit exposed there if that railing is glass, if you were really going to be actively using that roof deck. So just wanted to put that out there. But otherwise, I think it's quite a nice design, and I agree with Commissioner Camarado that a rendering would be a nice thing to look at in the next go around. Thank you.
Great. Overall, I tend to agree. I think, and maybe not a rendering, because I think you need to explore in 3 dimensions and maybe show us in 3 dimensions how that entry works. Because I can see it in 2D, but I'm nervous about it as I think about it in 3D, and would love to see that explained so that when we are looking at it next time, it's clear. I also think it's a great opportunity to really define the materials and things. I think it's a good design and a great opportunity, and I want to make sure that we're getting the right materials and right scale of things so that it works well. And we'd like to be able to see it be finished and look as nice. I too is a little nervous about the 2nd floor deck, but I think that a little bit more exploration on landscaping along that back fence between the neighbors is important. As Commissioner Trona said, one neighbor isn't going to live there forever. So I think best to be ahead of that. So those are my comments. Do we have any motions at this point?
I'll make a motion to bring it back on regular action.
Second.
Great, we have a motion by Commissioner Gall and a second by Commissioner Toronis. Any further discussion? Nope, seeing none, let's vote.
Commissioner Camarado,
Aye.
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Larios,
Aye.
Commissioner Toronis,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Chair Schmid.
Aye. Motion carries 6001. Congratulations. This item is not appealable. Moving on to item number 9E, 1549 Los Montes Drive. If you're the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
Yes, this is an application for design review and Hillside area construction permit for a new 2-story single-family dwelling and special permit and front setback variance for an attached garage at 1549 Los Montes Drive, zoned R1. This project was initially reviewed by the Planning Commission on November 9th of 2020. At that time, the commission referred the application to a design review consultant, noting several concerns with the design and exterior materials. The property owner then decided to hire a new architect for the project. The redesigned project was not reviewed by a design review consultant. This revised project is being brought back as a design review study item since it has been significantly revised compared to the initial design, which consisted of a 1st and 2nd floor addition to the existing house. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing house and detached garage to build a new 2-story single-family dwelling and attached garage. The proposed house will have a total floor area of 3,731 square feet, where 3,754 square feet is the maximum allowed. The applicant is requesting the following applications for this project: design review, Hillside area construction permit, special permit for an attached garage, and front setback variance for the attached garage. A 27-foot front setback is proposed where 35 feet is the minimum required for a 2-car garage with a double-wide garage door. That concludes my staff report. I'd be happy to take any questions of staff. I also wanted to note that we did receive a letter, received after a letter from Craig and Shan Hu, dated August 21st, and you should have a copy of that already.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions of staff? Okay, seeing none. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else that you would like to add about your project?
My name is Thomas. I'm the owner of the properties, and this project, like you guys can see, last year we submitted which a 2-story extended buildings, and unfortunately it got rejects and bring back to the design. And now we hire a new architect, Eric Chan, and provide this design, and we try to minimize the impacts from the neighbors from the first times. That's why we designed this house to cut the second story in half and try to compensate some of the privacy and blockage of their views. And the new plan is really classic modern layout, and yet will be really matching the nicely into our neighborhoods. And for the project details, I would like to have Eric to speak for it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. Eric,
yes.
Are you there?
Yeah, okay. I think I should be there.
There you are.
Yeah, my name is Eric Chan from Bay 9 Architects. And first of all, I'd like to thank the commission for actually rejecting the first project proposal so that I could join the team in design with Thomas this presentation, this house. As you can see, it's very modern. Lots of glass, stucco on the walls, and really a very contemporary look that it's inspired by the Eichler homes in the area, but hopefully, and also other examples of the best modern architecture that we've seen in the peninsula. As Thomas said, we did want to minimize the impact on the neighbors, especially our neighbor on the downhill side. So you can see that the upper floor, it represents it's basically just 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, and it represents only about 20% of the total square footage. So in respecting the neighbors, trying not to block so many of the view corridors, was achieved just by minimalizing the upper floor area. And you can also see that upper floor is pushed all the way over to the uphill side, so that that building block is roughly 35 feet away from the neighbor, or actually the property line. So probably almost 50 feet away from the neighbor's house on the downhill side. And so there were, you might hear about some comments about our windows on the second floor, but they're so far away from the neighbor that we don't think that there is an issue. The other issue that I'm sure will be talked about is the size of the roof deck. And I'm pretty sure that Thomas would be agreeable to reducing the size of the roof deck. And I think it'd still be nice if it was a smaller roof deck. But I hope the style and our approach to the site planning and the arrangement of the rooms is agreeable to the commission.
Great, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Taking it back to the commissioners, do we have any questions of the applicant at this time? Commissioner Torontos?
Yeah, I guess this is a question for both the architect and the owner. I don't know if you've had a chance to see the letter from the neighbors. You've already kind of addressed the point of the roof deck. I think that's great if you can revisit that. I'll withhold further comments on that until we get to comment periods. But one question that they had was the western redbud tree that you have towards the front left side or right side of your property. Could you reconsider the placement of that western redbud tree? They're just concerned about it casting shadows on their solar that they have to the front of their house. Perhaps.
Yes, we can find another locations to plant this new trees. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can actually eliminate any of the trees on that side.
Okay.
So we'd be happy to do that.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Thanks. Those are my questions.
Commissioner Gall.
Yeah, I'm glad that you realized the size of the roof deck before we got there, because that is something that we're gonna need to discuss at some point. So, but your windows and your doors, they have no trim to them. You're gonna stucco right up to the metal frames. Is that correct?
Yeah, we will, where they'll either be paneling or stucco that will
come right up to the window.
Come out. Yeah, we're not going to have any trims, and so it follows a more modern type of style.
Okay, but the one big window in the front that would have trim, it looks like, on your front elevation.
Which on the left side?
On the left, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is a trim, but it's not a traditional trim. It's more of a modern frame. So
okay, you could get us a detail or
yeah, sure.
Okay. Perspective drawing or rendering would help as well. And same question for it looks as if on your southeast elevation there's a fascia board at the edge of the first floor, I assume. Or is that the overhang? Is that what material would that be?
Let's see, where is that?
Sheet A 4.2. Let's go to or 4.1. It has it on there too. It looks like there's it's a fascia board at the roof.
Okay, yeah, it is a board, fascia board. It's probably a synthetic. It'll be painted, so it's just going to be a very smooth synthetic board material.
Okay, so maybe if you could specify that on the plan as well. And same question for the top at the second floor. Is that a metal cap coming over the edge? Is that a parapet wall?
Yeah, it's a cap that sticks out just a bit, and again, it'll be a synthetic fascia board type of material, like a hardy board.
Okay, and again, a detail there would be helpful for us to understand that it's not real clear just being a single line like that.
Okay, yeah.
And have you had a discussion with the owner about putting up story poles?
We've talked about it. There is an issue though. Right now, the house is being lived in by a renter, and on the left side where the house would be, there's a large driveway.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it would destroy the use of that driveway if we tried to put up.
Because I know on the previous application, the neighbor from behind had some concerns, and I think that we did request story poles at that time. And I assume that when I was at the site, I'm assuming that the neighbor on the left is going to have some concerns as well as this moves forward. So well, anyways, that's probably something that's going to be required. But I'll wait for the other commissioners to make comments.
Okay, I would say that second story is quite small, as you can see by the renderings. And so I don't think we could make it any smaller.
Yeah, it's just that we have an obligation to the neighbors, especially in the Hillside area, for view blockages. So typically we will require story poles.
I see.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tronis.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot one of my questions. I'm trying to understand the relationship of the first floor on the right-hand side. If we look at the front elevation, the relationship of the first floor to the garage wall below. We go to the A 4.0 sheet. So if I look at this front elevation, the garage wall appears to stick out further to the right than the first floor. Then if we go to the and the chimney, at least from the rendering and looking at this drawing, looks like the chimney is back from the side of that garage wall. If we go to A4.2, can we flip to that sheet real quick? Yeah,
Mhm.
here it looks like the chimney comes all the way down to the ground and is forward of the garage wall. But
Mhm.
I think in reality, the way that you have it, at least shown in the rendering, that garage wall continues on through, so the chimney doesn't come down to the ground. It actually sits sort of on a plinth of the garage wall or something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. It's not that we've done many versions of this design, and actually, it's the final plan and should show that the fireplace is closer to the edge than they've shown in the rendering. And it was really just a play of getting to the right square footage and dealing with the setbacks. And I think I could revise the drawings if you want to accurately show exactly where the fireplace sits.
Yeah.
But it's pretty close to the edge of the wall there.
Because then something's not reflected properly on the floor plan. If that chimney
Right.
is back, just barely, maybe, a foot or so out from the glass wall along the side on the first floor, it's
Yeah.
not going to reach out to go beyond the garage wall. So
Yeah, that is true. That's a good point. And
okay,
the plan actually shows sort of the final location of where that chimney should go.
okay, then it sounds like this elevation may need to get revised. So if you
Right.
could
And
make it-
certainly, we can
Okay.
certainly do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Say?
Thank you. Yes, I had a number of the same kind of comments and questions about some of the graphical depiction of what's designed and some of the inconsistencies. It would be really helpful if you did in the next go around more clearly match, I guess, if you're going to show us some three-dimensional renderings to align those with the proposed design. And even I think it would help if some of the line weights were adjusted so we can better read some of the where there's actually a building material versus a reference line. That would be helpful as well. And another thing that I had noticed was on the front elevation, it looks like the roof or the fascia, or the decorative element around the living room, is it above the garage? Looks thicker than what we're seeing in the renderings. And so just wanted to ask you to clarify, how you intend that dimension to look in your true design.
Okay, yeah, in the true design, it should be thicker. I think when we were doing the design studies and building the 3D models to make sure the look of the building was what we wanted, we didn't really account for things like the 1/4 inch per foot sloping of the roof to the edge of the building. And so the drawings were refined to reflect a lot of the technical aspects of the building that needed to be incorporated. And so we can go back and revise and adjust the renderings to match the plans. But basically the plans are a little bit more advanced and a little more of what you can expect with the final build out.
Okay, great. You can
But that's a good
clarify
point,
some
yeah.
of the drafting details so we can see that better in the next go around. I don't see any downspouts around the house. And were you planning on integral downspouts?
We're planning some downspouts on the sides of the building to kind of hide that element, which we don't think is as attractive as a lot of the other elements on the building. We are considering some of the roof chains that will allow the water to just flow off the roof and not go through the vertical tubes. But there will be some downspouts, and if I didn't show them the elevations, maybe they just didn't make it into the latest round. But I think the downspouts are shown in the roof plan, and they should just head straight down from those locations.
Okay, so next time maybe you can show us how that's being addressed, so we can understand how that's integrated with your design.
Okay.
You know, with modern design, everything has to be so thought through,
Right.
so that you can make everything work and coordinate. And then, you know, I of course I do feel that for the renters who are living in the house right now, but part of your submission is a Hillside area construction permit review, and that obviously it's because you're in the hills. We have distant bay views to protect potentially for surrounding neighbors. And so the story poles is really the best way to be able to provide some type of physical representation for the neighbors behind or next to, or, you know, around this property, and get an assessment of whether there are any distant bay views that are blocked by the second story addition. And I know you've been trying to keep it small and compact, but nonetheless, it can still be a view blockage issue for one or more of your neighbors. So I would encourage you to consider that and coordinate with the renter to make that happen. Thank you.
I see.
Great. Okay. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this item at this time?
There were no public comments received through the public comment email, and I don't see any hands raised.
I don't see any hands raised either. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and move on to our commissioners. Any comments, please? Commissioner Taranis.
Yeah, I think that the reconsideration of the design of the basic layout of the project is much better than what we saw previously. I mean, taking the garage and shifting it to the right-hand side versus trying to wedge it up on the uphill side, as we saw before, I think is the better move. You know, this fits with the pattern that we see in the rest of the neighborhood, you know, with the garage tucked under on that lower side of the house with the sloping hillside. You know, I think that, as I mentioned when this was before us before, I can make the findings for the variance. I would ask that the applicant reconsider the crafting of their variance, because I think that the exceptional circumstance is not just the block average of, you know, with the neighborhood, but also just the fact that the property line is set so far back from the edge of the street. You know, the typical front setback is contemplated, you know, for the most common condition that we have in our neighborhoods. And oftentimes that's, you know, street edge, curb, planter strip, sidewalk, and then, you know, ultimately property line. In this case, you know, we don't have that typical condition. So, you know, I think that there's some support in that regard for the variance. You know, I'm glad that they could, they're willing to reconsider the placement of that tree. In regards to the roof deck, my concern for the roof deck is not just the size, but if you look at the layout of that top floor plan, there's a sliding door that actually accesses that roof deck, not just from the master bedroom, but from the landing at the top of the stairs, which tells me that, you know, that's perfect access for visitors, for others to just, you know, go out onto that roof deck. And in other words, it's not just a bedroom deck. It's potentially accessed by the public of the house, meaning it could become party deck, and that kind of thing that's overlooking a neighboring house, you know, could be a real nuisance. So, you know, I think that they need to pull that roof deck back, you know, probably by 2/3 of what it is now. And I think it would still present itself as a nice opportunity for a viewing deck and still be away from that edge of the house. And the deck towards the front, I think off of the master bedroom, is well placed because that affords some nice views from that side of the house. in regards to the project moving forward, I don't think we have any choice but to require story poles, so unfortunately, the property owners are going to have to find some way, if they want this project to happen, to get those story poles installed so that we and the neighbors can see what the potential impacts of this project may be. So I think the project can move forward with some of the revisions that we've discussed, and with the erection of the story poles. Thank you.
Other comments? Well, I'll go ahead and go. I can appreciate the roof deck, but I also appreciate the point of the neighbors. And I think that at the very least, the deck needs to maybe be planned out a little bit more. Just throwing a railing up there doesn't really do it. I think there needs to be some consideration to what kind of buffers might be in place, that we would ask of other buildings that have roof decks, whether that consists of some sort of planting or how you lay out the furniture. But how do you kind of protect the neighbors from just standing there at the guardrail and drinking and yelling over at the other property? So I think that there needs to be some conscious effort there to design that space. At the same time, looking at, I really like the design and where it's come. And that's why I think we are actually asking a lot of questions, because it's it's not maybe unique, but it's different than what we typically get for a lot of our neighborhoods. And I think that the detailing is important to make sure that the vision comes out correctly. And, just the very point of sloping those flat roofs, that's really going to change the way those fascia trims look, and how things get executed and how you have your drainage. And I think that more effort needs to be put into understanding those areas, so that then we're not coming back much later saying it's a whole different design now that you figured out how to drain it and how to support it. So, getting the structure in there, getting the drainage in there, and figuring those pieces out are going to have some impacts on the way this lot gets used. So I'm encouraging this project to move forward, but I also want to see a bit more design and documentation when it comes back to us next time. So those are my comments. Anybody else? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to bring this back on the regular action when our comments have been addressed and story poles have been erected for us to view.
I can second that. So motion by Commissioner Tronis and a second by myself. Any further discussion on the motion?
Just one comment, because we didn't really comment on it. I think that there are we could make sufficient findings, at least in my mind, for the special permit for attached garage. It is a common pattern, if not the pattern of the neighborhood.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, then let's vote.
Commissioner Camarado,
Aye.
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Larios,
Aye.
Commissioner Taronis,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Chair Schmid.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0-0-1. It's non-appealable. Congratulations. Okay, that concludes our study items. Moving on to agenda item number 10, commissioners' reports. Do we have any? Nobody's saying, oh, there's a hand.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Maybe it's just a question for Ruben. Ruben, I just want to make sure that you saw my note that I will be absent from the next meeting, September 13th.
Yes, we received that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then moving on to agenda item number 11, director's reports.
Sure. At the last city council meeting, the city council decided to continue allowing parklets through next September. So they'll be around for a little while longer. And they decided not to do any street closures on Burlingame Avenue or Broadway. I don't have the details, but those were the conclusions. So parklets are going to stick around. I believe they're going to have to meet certain minimum requirements like ADA requirements. And I believe there might be some certain design standards. Some of them look really great. Other ones are fairly bare bones. So I think some of those tenants are going to have to decide to either spruce them up a little bit more or just eliminate them altogether. That's what I have to report for City Council. There are no FYIs tonight. So we just have our next Planning Commission meeting on September 13th. There's an extra week in between meetings, so you won't see anything from us next week. That's all I have.
Great. Well, barring any other comments or concerns, it sounds like it's time to adjourn. So I'd like to adjourn this meeting at 9:06 p.m. And thank you all for attending.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Right.
Bye.
You guys.